This is There's Another Way to Do That, where I teach you how to modify recipes based on my restrictions. It's season 2, and we're modifying recipes inspired by my guests. So let's get into it. Solla loves bone broths and bone broth soups. I have recently become a fan of them because of her. So today I decided to make a homemade bone broth. Now, the difference between the bone broth and the bone broth soup, of course, is because it's just going to have additional things in it if it's a soup. But the bone broth is just going to be the broth at the end. But first, we have to add the bones, the bone marrow, and also the veggies. It's fairly easy. The first time I made it, I did it with a crock pot and I loved it. It was surprisingly very, very tasty. I was a little scared because the smell is bad as it's like cooking. So just a warning, make sure you open the windows or put some fans on as it's cooking because it just doesn't have a great smell at first. But as it gets to cooking really well, it tastes and smells so good. So I would say the main thing for me, the reason I want to make a homemade bone broth is because it has less sodium. I am not going to put a lot of sodium in it. I will be putting some sodium in it just with Himalayan salt, but I don't want to put a lot of sodium because I find that the ones in the stores are very, very, very high in sodium. Now at the store, if you decide to buy one, they do have delicious bone broths. Just make sure you pay attention to that and also the ingredients. But also they have the bone broth packets. And I believe I talked about that in one of my quick tips recently. So make sure you check that out and try that out if you need some bone broth on the go. All right, so let's get started here. We're going to start with the bones first because I've had them sitting out for a little bit and I don't want them to go bad. I want to get them in the water to start the breaking down because it does take a while. The type of bones that I'm using are chicken feet. And with chicken feet, usually I buy the ones that are gluten-free. I'm hoping these are gluten-free because I had to go to a different source this time around. When I went to the grocery store, they were out of so many different things. So I'm hoping that it's gluten-free and we'll be fine. But anyway, I'm not sure if that even matters with the bones itself because I'm not using the meat. But anyway, chicken feet, I like using it because I feel like it adds a nice flavor with the beef bones. Just had to put on some gloves because we're handling raw meat. But I wanted to show you like the chicken feet. I know it's so funny. So if you're like a little queasy or whatever, you might want to not do this. But I don't mind it. I cleaned these. I made sure I soaked them in vinegar and everything before I use them. So I would highly suggest that because, you know, they're feet and they're dirty. So yeah, so I did that. I'm just going to throw them in here for now to get that going. I'm going to change my gloves every single time because, yes, I don't like mixing the gloves based on the meat or even though it's bones. I still don't care. I don't like mixing it. So the next thing I'm going to do is get the beef bones together. And this time I went to the butcher. I had to go to a different butcher this time to get them. But you can go to the grocery store and get bones for bone broth. And I feel like the bone marrow is very important in bone broth. So I wanted to make sure that I'll show you. And I got some extra marrow because I was trying to cut the bones and I messed up. It's better, I would tell you, get it cut in half, and then this is some extra marrow. I would say get it cut in half like I have here, but also cut it this way because it's just easier and you can do it in a crock pot or something like that. Because I got them cut this way and I was at a new butcher and they were giving me issues. Because I got it like this, I'm going to use just a regular pot. And again, you can use a crock pot and I'll talk about that in a moment. That's what I did the first time I made this. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just bones with the bone marrow in the middle. When the bone marrow breaks down though, this is what the bone marrow is. That's the inside of this. And it's just soft. It's just like a soft kind of like, I don't know, marrowy thing. I should say, if you're someone that gets a little queasy, or you don't like dealing with raw meat, or just body parts from an animal, this is not going to be the recipe for you. I should probably say that right away, because it is a very interactive. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to do is add the veggies to the mix. And it's typical veggies that will go inside of any type of broth or soup or something like that. If you're making it homemade, I would say use organic ones, especially when it comes to the carrots, because they're sweeter, I've noticed, and delicious. Oh, they just add so much flavor. I wouldn't do the baby carrots or the ones that are already shredded. I'm going to use carrots. I'm using celery, ginger, and parsley. I'm going to do some herbs, which are fresh thyme. And we're going to, of course, do some garlic. I got the ones that are already peeled, so we can get right to that. Kind of just cut them in half and throw it inside, because they're going to break down anyway. It'll be cooking for a long time. And bay leaves. We're going to add a couple not bay leaves like you're drinking, bay leaves. And these just, again, this is something that you always do when you are doing some sort of soup or broth or any kind of, I think there's also like when you're doing stews and stuff, bay leaves are great too. So I'm going to add that as well. We're going to cut this down just again so it breaks up. And I add it to the pot, and it's that simple. Oops. Making a mess. I'm also using a shallot. One, like, it's not even a full one. It's probably like more like a half of a shallot, because I don't really do onions, but I can do grilled onions. And I do think that it adds a nice flavor to the broth. So if you can do that, I think that shallots are a little bit milder than a traditional onion, or sweet onions are good as well. They're usually a little bit milder. So when you grill them up or cook them up, it's not so like potent as you would get with a normal onion. I can already see I got a little bit too much water in there. The 15 is cups of water is a little bit too much for mine. So I'm probably going to have to take out a little bit before I bring the heat back up. I'm actually not going to get too picky on how I cut these veggies today, because it's really about just making sure the stuff is taken out of the veggies. So I just wanted to kind of break down, and I want to make it as easy as possible so it doesn't take forever. Because the first time I will say, I think because I did it in a crock pot the first time, it does take a little bit longer. And I don't think this is going to take as long. It probably will take about 3 hours or so. Okay, next I am going to add some garlic. I love garlic. So, but I don't want to overdo it. With the garlic, it's kind of like the onions where some people can't do it. I would say use your own discretion. I'm doing about 2 handfuls of them. The only thing left is the citrus. I'm going to add 1 lemon. I'm going to do about 1/4 cup of raw apple cider vinegar. I feel like that's a lot, but I'm going to do it. And the parsley, I'll be adding that. But first, let's go ahead and move over here so that we can see up close what's happening with everything. You see it's at the brim. I'm going to add the vinegar. We're adding fresh lemon juice. I could juice the lemon, but I'm not doing that. I don't think this necessarily needs parsley, but I'm just going to add a little bit more herbs to it, because I wanted to add fresh rosemary, but I forgot to grab it. So you can also add rosemary as well. That'll give it a nice flavor. I'll probably throw some dry rosemary in there just because I like rosemary and I still think it'll taste good. Last thing is adding the salt. I like this Himalayan salt. At first, when I first tried it, I thought it was really, really salty. But as I've began to eat it, it's actually not as salty. So I'm going to add a significant amount because we do have some bones in there, but it won't be bad. Trust me, it won't hurt it. And then I'm going to add some of this water back to cover this a little. And then we're just gonna let it cook. Let it cook. The object of all of this is to make sure that the bones and the marrow are fully broken down, in addition, as much as possible, in addition to the veggies and everything being extracted out of this stuff so that we can make our broth. And that'll be the end result. So we shall see. If I need to have it go, I think you can use your own discretion again, where if you see that the marrow is not really falling out of the bone, it's not ready. If it looks like it's not fully cooked or it's still there fully, it's not cooked. And I'll show you along the way, because you should be checking this about every 30 minutes just to make sure everything's going well, stirring it up. This would be the time to open the windows. Open the windows, because it's about to start smelling weird and it's not going to smell good until the end. Last thing I will say is I will add salt, more salt based on what it's going to taste like at the end. I put a lot of Himalayan salt. I might add a little bit in about an hour just because things are breaking up, but I don't want it to be too salty. So I'm gradually kind of adding a little bit, but you do whatever feels great for you. If you have a specific salt you like to use, go ahead and do your thing. I just can't have the overload of sodium. But the good news with the sodium is it'll help you stay hydrated. I'm really looking forward to tasting it this time, and I'm always scared to taste it, but we're gonna do it. Let's go. So now it's time to strain it, and it's literally been about 5 hours, literally. So everything is ready to go. I wanted it to break down for a while. I really wanted those bones and that marrow to get in there. This is extremely hot and I already burnt my finger on it. So make sure you use oven mitts because I forgot the handles get really hot after that long time. But the bone marrow is gone. You can see it's really broken down, and some of that bone has even broken down and gotten into there. And as you can see, the chicken feet are completely broken down. They're just literally broken down into nothing. And everything else is there just to season it and make it great. I'm going to check all of the bones just in case before we taste it here. All I'm doing, I'm going to strain this first, but I just want to see if I need any salt. So I'm literally taking like a tiny little bit. It'll be fine. Make sure you have a large mason jar. I'm going to strain this with this. I'm putting it in this pot because it allows the pouring very easily. And I'm going to do just enough, not all of it at first. I'm making a mess. It's getting all over the place. Okay, cool. I got enough still. I got enough room to do a little more. It almost reminds you of Halloween, don't it? Where it's like, I'm gonna get you, my pretty. Let's see. Yeah. I don't need to. I just want the double, triple check after it's stirred up that I don't need any salt. Oh, see, I'm about to touch it again. Burn my dang on fingers. Now we're just gonna put this inside the jar. I wanted to use a really big jar this time because I knew I had a lot and I didn't want to have to put it into so many separate jars because then who's going to eat it that fast and then you're going to have to like freeze it. So I didn't want to do that. But as you can see, it's very easy, and this is what you're buying at the store, and you can use the bone broth to put in soups and other things as well. You don't just have to do bone broth by itself. I do bone broth by itself. You can add other seasonings if you are drinking it in a mug or anything like that. Feel free to add a little bit more or do something like that. And it's really, look at this. So simple, not expensive, much cheaper, and you can get way more. I got this much, and then my one in the fridge is like, it's about not even this wide, but it's so much smaller for like way more money. Do yourself a favor, make your own, and then you'll kind of start getting used to what you like and the taste that you want out of your bone broth. Dump a little bit more. Ow, ow, ow. This stuff is hot. I had a little something hit my foot. And voila. Delicious beef and chicken homemade bone broth. You can have this for dinner. I will be having it for dinner. And try it out. It's delicious. It'll make your immune system go up. It'll help you with different illnesses. Do yourself a favor and make it yourself. You don't have to buy everything. This has been There's Another Way to Do That, which is part of I Can't Eat Shit podcast on YouTube and wherever you stream your podcasts. Make sure you try this out. It's really good. It's so delicious and it's so good for you. You won't regret it. And check out the full podcast episode for Solla Pizzuto.